day, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to use today's video to see if I can kill 3 vultures with one stone. The first stone is to a vulture named Seth Miller, who didn't take too kindly to my video exposing the New Testament. He said the most despicable words to me when I tried to tell him, I'm paraphrasing, if I know there's arsenic in a meal fit for a king, should I rely on my wisdom to figure out where the arsenic is lurking? Or do I throw out the entire meal? I told him Paul was the main focal point and instrument used for false prophecy, and he basically called me a liar and, quote, it's all about the white boys and not believing the Bible. You will answer to false prophecy one day. So, the first stone is to prove that I'm not a liar, Mr. Miller. The second stone is to back up the video we just saw earlier this week when we went over how our beloved brother Paul, instructions of righteousness, thus your salvation, was totally incomplete and is the key that set the wheels of self-destruction in motion for the common Christian cracker. How? By proving the spirit that was directing him and his journeys was not of Yah. How? By proving his involvement in a false prophecy. The third brick is to back up the video we just saw yesterday. You remember, we read the scriptures pertaining to the modern day spiritual leader who make money speaking the word of Yah. I already know that third bunch are stiff-necked. And want to say Paul said you can receive money for preaching the gospel. And will even fix their mouths to say the Anointed One backs it up in Luke 10:7 and Matthew 10:1-10. I only think it's only prudent to look at these verses first to take a little starch out of their necks. Luke 10:7, quote, and in the same house remain, eating and drinking such things as they give, for the laborer is worthy of his hire. Go not house to house. Example. Clearly the payment is food, drink, and such things. No mention of money. Neither are you supposed to go house to house. You know why? Basically, don't be the common colored and freeload off of Yah's dime. Why was that relevant, you ask? Because the commandment given to them, just like you, was to go to each city of Israel and to tell of the good news. Not have a congregation start putting money towards building a temple or a storefront church for your own. In fact, the second excuse their oppressed mind rationalize is actually the command given by the Anointed One. Context. The Messiah is commanding his chosen apostles, in the sight of all, not to preach his message to the Gentiles, nor the mixed multitude of people who went under the name of the area they were placed in by the Assyrians. I'm talking about the cities of the Samaritans. No, there isn't a progenitor of the Samaritans people. They are a hodgepodge of people the Assyrians placed there when they took away the 10 tribes of Israel. The conquered came in with their own different gods and doing their own different things. Yah wasn't playing that and sent lions in on their butts because they were defiling his land. He eventually had a couple of the Jerusalem priests go and preach to the mixed multitude the laws that would allow them to stay on the land. The ancestors to those very people continue to practice the same rituals today. Using this small bit of information, you should be able to make sense of the conversation the woman and the Anointed One had at the water well in John chapter 4. When you look at the story in context and with understanding, you will quickly come to the conclusion. The Anointed One dissed the living shit out of this woman, her dad, their homeland, and their religion all in one fellow swoop. But wait! Then made the woman give him a sip of her water for his troubles. Sidebar question. Did the Anointed One exhibit black male privilege? Or the far worse charge of patriarchal misogyny to oppress women? Just a question. I didn't mean nothing by it. Let's continue, shall we? Matthew 10:5-14. Quote, "These 12 the anointed ones sent forth and commanded them, saying, Go not into the way of the Gentiles, and into any city of the Samaritans enter ye not." Stop. I have heard a couple of wayward colored preachers say, when he said, quote, "Go not into the way of the Gentiles," that it really meant not to go after the ways and the manner of the heathen. Oh, really? If that was so, it would have said, "Go not in the way," and not "go not into the way." Besides, the context of the command is summed up by the saying, quote, "and into any city," in the very next breath. But wait, he furthers the affliction of understanding of the command by backing his first two commands with their true mission. Let's keep going. Quote, "But go rather to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." Stop. This proves the pure message of the Anointed One was never intended to be heard by a Gentile, nor the rest of the nations, which is the mixed multitude symbolized by the cities of the Samaritans, by an Israelite mouth. Never. This also proves the so-called 10 lost tribes were not lost at all and were apparently in traveling distance. But let's get to the subject of this video. Let's keep going. Quote, "And as ye go, preach, saying, The kingdom of heaven is at hand. Heal the sick, cleanse the leper, raise the dead, cast out devils. Freely ye have received, freely give. Provide neither gold nor silver nor brass in your purse, nor scrip for your journey, neither 2 coats, neither shoes, nor yet stays, for the workman is worthy of his meat." Stop. I know each and every one of you want to say this proves the people should give money to the preacher man. But please understand the context of what's being said. By starting the command off with saying, "Freely ye receive, freely give," should tell you that asking someone for a donation, yeah, even if it's just a little blue box or the CD of your homie rapping White Christ, is wayward to say the least. The context truly is, don't worry about what you will eat, wear, or sleep, etc. The necessary items will be given unto you as you travel your journey. It does not mean accumulate wealth for the new tabernacle building fund, or you need production money to bring the truth to the people. You don't believe me? Let's keep going. Quote, "And into whatever city or town you enter, inquire who in it is worthy, and abide there till ye go thence." Example, I told you, abide there, meaning your lodging, food, etc., is your wage, not filthy lucre. But I know I have gotten way off track. I was supposed to be showing you Paul's involvement in a false prophecy. Okay, question. Would it be safe for me to say the same Holy Ghost Spirit that guides Paul is the same Holy Ghost Spirit that called upon a certain prophet named Agabus to bestow a prophecy on and involving Paul, and is the same Holy Ghost Spirit that convinced Paul to co-sign the prophecy? If you said yes, let's take a look at the prophecy Agabus bestows upon Paul, shall we? Context. Paul was summoned by the Jerusalem church so he could answer to the charges of heresy and being an apostate. I know most of you didn't perceive that, but I did. But I bid you to go and look at it in context, situation, and what is exactly said. We're going to take a look at it, and you will quickly see. Brother James was setting Paul up the whole time to answer these charges, and being concerned about the Gentiles was secondary. James was a very clever guy, or at least had very clever counsel around him. But before Paul set out on his journey, a prophet named Agabus came to meet Paul. And well, let's pick it up there. Acts 21:11. Quote, "And when he was come into us, he took Paul's girdle and bound his own hands and feet and said, Thus says the Holy Ghost, listen up, so shall the Jews at Jerusalem bind the man that owneth this girdle, and shall deliver him into the hands of the Gentiles." Example. Okay, so the Holy Ghost told him the Jews were going to bind Paul hand and foot and turn him over to the Gentiles. If you keep reading, you will see Paul co-signs the prophecy by bragging about not only being bound, he thought it would be an honor that he would be killed for the name of the Anointed One. He co-signed it, people. Oh yeah. Before I go any further, allow me to let you in on a sidebar fact. It seems Christians and a lot of Hebrew Israelites don't believe or have forgotten that Yah will send lying spirits to accomplish his mission as well. Just in case you're one of those type of people, take a look at 1 Kings 22:20 through 23. Quote, "And Yah said, Who shall persuade Ahab that he may go up and fall at Ramoth Gilead? And one said on this manner, and another said on that manner. And there came forth a spirit that stood before Yah and said, I will persuade him. And Yah said unto him, Wherewith? And he said, I will go forth, and I will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all of his prophets. And he said, Thou shalt persuade him, and prevail also. Go forth, and do so. Now therefore, behold, Yah has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all thy prophets, and Yah has spoken evil concerning thee." Example. So as you can see, if the Agabus prophecy doesn't pan out, I guess we know what spirit has been guiding Paul and the Gentile inclusion all along. Okay, we see Paul being told his fate by the prophet Agabus. After Paul could not be persuaded to go to Jerusalem, they set off on their journey. Remember me wondering in a much earlier video why Paul was being singled out for ass whippings? Well, I think we're about to find out. Listen to how James is playing Paul. Remember, Paul thinks he is going to talk to the people he later describes as, quote, seem to be pillars. Whoever they were, they maketh no matter to me. About circumcision to the Gentiles. He has no earthly idea what James is about to spring on him. See, it appears Paul had begun to change his initial message to start to go down the dark road of becoming an apostate. Acts 21:20 through 25. Quote, "And when they heard it, they glorified the Lord and said to him, Thou seest, brother," talking to Paul, "how many thousands of Jews there are which believe, and they are all zealous of the law. And they," who? The many thousands, "and they are informed of thee, that thou teachest all the Jews which are among the Gentiles to forsake Moses, saying that they ought not to circumcise their children, neither to walk after the customs." Example. That's why Paul was being singled out for ass whippings. Paul has started to tell even the Jews they didn't have to do the law. Here's where they were setting Paul up. Okay, so Paul does what the true apostles, those who seem to be somewhat, but whoever they were, made no difference to him. Yeah, those guys. Well, he did what those guys told him to do. And after the seventh day, it was time to go to the temple and complete the vow of commitment to Yah. Surely the word of this action should have circulated around, seeing the whole purpose of the vow was to redeem Paul's place within the community, right? This should have pleased everyone, right? Wrong. Let's pick it up at Acts 21, 27 through 33. Quote, "And when 7 days were almost ended, the Jews which were in Asia," I want y'all to remember that, "the Jews which were in Asia, when they saw him in the temple, stirred up all the people and laid hands on him, crying out, 'Men of Israel, help! This is the man that teacheth all men everywhere against the people and the law and this place, and further brought Greece also into the temple, and has polluted this holy place. For they had seen before with him in the city Trophimus and some other name, whom they supposed that Paul had brought into the temple. And all the city was moved, and the people ran together, and they took Paul and drew him out of the temple, and they forthwith the doors were shut. And as they went about to kill him, tidings came unto the chief captain of the band that all Jerusalem was up in an uproar, who immediately took soldiers and centurions and ran down unto them. And when they saw the chief captain and the soldiers, they left beating Paul. Then the chief captain, who? The chief captain came near and took him and commanded him to be, what? Bound with 2 chains, and demanded who he was and what he had done. Example, they couldn't even wait until the 7 days and his vow was up before they tried to kill him yet again. Take special notice of something. Paul was not getting his head split to the white meat because of the name of the anointed one. It was because he was teaching the people not to do what Yah called the ordinances of life. Question, did anyone catch the false prophecy? Remember, the prophet Agabus told Paul that the Jews were going to bind him and turn him over to the Gentiles. But as we can plainly see, the event happened completely the opposite way. The people left beating Paul. They didn't bind nor turn him over to anyone. Furthermore, it was the Romans that bound him with the 2 chains, not the Jews. If you keep reading, you will see that it was the Romans that turned Paul over to the Jews, the high priest, for trial, which would make this, at least in my humble opinion, and according to the scriptures, a false prophecy. But wait! Did you notice who cried out to the people about Paul? The men of Asia. Not to take any punch out of another video, but didn't John the Revelator praise those in Ephesus, which is Asia, for exposing guys who call themselves apostles and do lie to add affliction upon affliction? Didn't Paul admit to Timmy all the people in Asia turned away from him in 2 Timothy 1 and 15? What would be the law of compound probability of these dots not connecting to our beloved brother Paul? So, ladies and gentlemen of Israel who ask for donations, those who believe and teach within Paul's writings, you Gentiles, the nations, and even you, Seth, I'm even talking to you. If Paul can be the focal point and co-sign false prophecy, among other damning things, why do you cleave to his message? Question, what does that make you? That right there. Double-crossing, hypocrite, Mmm.